Alan Watts pointed out a particular dilemma where he said, if you mistrust yourself, if you basically mistrust yourself, can you even trust your own mistrust of yourself? And this is the basic dilemma. Why it is so difficult talking to anybody about anything. Because if people are out of touch, if somebody is out of touch with reality, their sense of reality is their out of touchness with reality. People's sense of reality is what they base their perceptions on. And if somebody's perceptions are off, how can you tell them that their perceptions are off? And this is also pointed out in this other thing. Let me think if I can, or see if I can Google it, because I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it's Dunning-Keating, but I will find out by entering Dunning-Kruger. The Dunning-Kruger effect. And basically, let's just see what it has to say here. Right doodle doodly dood. Googly doogly boogity. Wikipedia, of course, the authority on all things. Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias. That's the point. If some people have a cognitive bias, whatever a person's programming is, that's what we call our cognitive bias. And all that means, cognitive bias is just a fancy word meaning a perspective of thinking, an angle of a bias, an angle of thinking, a way of thinking. And that's the problem. You try to talk to people's thoughts are based on their basic programming or their basic operating system. And how can you tell somebody that how can you tell a computer that its basic operating system is out of whack? How can a computer correct itself for having an operating system that's out of whack when it bases everything it does on that operating system? What it bases everything it does. It can't correct itself. And that's how human beings are. They can't correct themselves because the operating system, the fundamental programming that we have is our mode of thinking. Our mode of thinking, our cognitive bias. I'm going to continue reading now. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which unskilled individuals suffer from illusory superiority. And not just fancy schmancy Wikipedia wording to say stupid people can't know that they're stupid because they're too stupid to know that they're stupid. And so being stupid, they imagine that they're smart. But let's continue to read it in the fancy schmancy Wikipedia, namby-pamby language. Cognitive bias in which unskilled individuals suffer from illusory superiority, mistakenly raising their ability much higher than average. This bias is attributed to a metacognitive inability of the unskilled to recognize their mistakes. And that's still fancy schmancy, namby-pamby language to say that if you're stupid, you don't know what intelligence is, so you have nothing to base your notions of what stupidity is other than your own stupidly flawed notions of what intelligence is, which is obviously stupidly flawed, obvious to everyone else but to yourself, that because you're stupid, that your notions of what stupidity and intelligence are stupidly flawed. In other words, your simple basic operating system, your basic programming, being flawed, can't correct itself. Continuing on, actual competence may weaken self-confidence. Actual competence may weaken self-confidence, as competent individuals may falsely assume that others have an equivalent understanding David Dunning and Justin Kruger of Cornell University conclude, quote, the miscalibration of the incompetent stems from an error about the self, whereas the miscalibration of the highly competent stems from an error about others. So it's still a double, two-sided coin here, where how does anybody know, how can any of us make generalizations when we're all trapped? The people who are stupid are too stupid to know how stupid they are, and they think that they're smarter than they are. And the people who are smart, by virtue of being smart, have a hard time believing that everybody else really is as stupid as everyone else is, so they don't think they're that much smarter. And that's how it goes, that everybody has their own cognitive bias. And you can't wake people up to the situation that's going on, because people are only able to perceive it through their own flawed perceptions.